Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another tutorial video. In this tutorial today, I'm going to be taking you through how to create this beautiful watercolor calligraphy print, but you don't need any calligraphy experience. So let's dive right into the tutorial and get started. So before we dive in and start creating a beautiful blended watercolor calligraphy print, I'm just going to take you through the tools that I'll be using for this video. So firstly, the watercolours I'm using are the Ecoline liquid watercolours. I absolutely love these for blending because they're already liquid. You don't have to worry about dipping your paintbrush in water and loosening up the watercolour palette. And these are just so bright as well. The colours I'm using today for this tutorial are 205, 578, 507 and 337. I've just dropped them into a watercolour palette. So we've got the yellow here, this is the purple, this is the blue, and this is the pink. It's a little bit hard to see on camera, the colour difference, but you'll be able to tell later on when I start to paint. To the side, I do have a pot of water, and this is just so I can clean my brush in between dipping it in to different colours in the paint palette, so I don't mix up the colours in the paint palette. For my brush, I'm using this Royal Langnickel unicorn brush. Yes, it is cool, it is very pretty, but it's actually also a really good brush. As you can see, it's got quite a fine tip. I believe this is a size 0, but I'm not 100% sure. It doesn't actually say on the paintbrush. But I really like using a fine tip for something like this because we've got some thicker places and thinner places, so it's a lot easier to do the detail. I then also have my trusty paint rag, which I just use to wipe off any excess colour, and I've just got that to the side of me. For my print, I am using some Daler Rowney watercolour paper. I believe this is called the Langton. It came from an A2 sheet and I've just trimmed it down to A5. I created this in Procreate on my iPad and then I sent it to my printer to print. However, if you don't have an iPad to create your own calligraphy, or you don't have a printer, for example, you can use a really light grey pen. So the Kuretake Zig Clean Colour Real Brush Pen is a really good pen for just doing a really light grey outline of your calligraphy or your lettering, and then you can go over the top with your watercolours. If you end up using a darker grey than this, you may find that you lose some of the brightness with your watercolours as it mixes with the ink. I will be leaving a link in the description below so you can download this exact design and you can print it yourself at home. So if you want to have some fun with watercolours or even follow along with me on this tutorial, you can download that and print it and you can have some fun with watercolours. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm just taking my time. You'll see that I keep going over sections just to make sure there's enough watercolour on there. I'm now just going to dip my brush back in the water and I'm just cleaning it off with my cloth. And we're going to go for the pink next, I think. The pink and the yellow blend really nicely together. So before I go near the yellow, I'm just going to add some pink in first, just so the colours don't mix quite yet, and it's still nice and bold after the blend. And now I'm just going to gently go into where the yellow is. And then I'm just going to dip my brush in again. I'm just going to go back over the yellow. So I've just dipped my paintbrush in the yellow watercolour and I'm just pulling that through just so it blends a little bit nicer. Okay, next we're going to go for the blue, and because we've got a join here, what I'm going to do is just go down like this, and then we'll connect that into another colour later on. You don't need to worry if you go out the lines a little bit. It's meant to look handmade after all. So now I'm just going to go in with the purple, and again I'm going to start away from the blue. And don't be afraid to turn the paper around just to get a more comfortable position. Just make sure you don't smudge any work that you've already done. So I'm just blending in the blue to the purple now. And there's a little bit of a harsh line here, so I'm just going to go back in with the blue and just pull that through. And then I think I just want to add a little pop of pink there. So I've just dipped my brush in the pink. And it's blended nicely. I'm just going to pull this blending down a little bit more too. Sometimes it's worth just blending parts of it without actually using any ink, just to get a smooth transition. Okay, so I'm just going to show you that again, but I've just gone in slightly closer so you can see the detail of the blending and what I'm doing with my brush. So let's start with the blue here. And what you'll notice is that I'm doing very short strokes. I'm not staying on the page too long, and that's just because I have a little bit more control over it. So that's why we use these guides, is rather than doing the calligraphy all in one go, we're filling it in. So it's kind of like colouring in a way. I've just gone out the line a little bit there, that's okay. This is going to be a little bit thicker than I hoped, but that's fine, it's handmade. And this is why I want to do a nice close-up for you, because it looks so beautiful when it blends like that. You can see the yellow's gone in the blue and it's created a lovely greeny colour. You can actually get a very similar green colour to this, which is number 600. But I just love being able to mix these colours like this, so I can have a little bit of green in here if I want, or if I don't want any, I can just use the yellow. So I've just dipped my brush back in the yellow after cleaning it, and I'm just going back in with the yellow because I want to make sure I've actually got some yellow now, because a lot of that blended to green. So now we're going back, and I'm just going to brush upwards. So I'm not taking that green down, the yellow is blending up into the green. And you can see I'm just doing little strokes again. Now it's important to think about what colours blend into each other when you're doing this. So for example, I'll just take a little bit of this purple, and because this purple and this yellow clash together a bit, they don't make the nicest blend. So it's worth having a little play with your colours and seeing what works best for you. I personally don't really like that colour, so we're just going to add a bit of pink to blend it out more. And that just blends a little bit better. It's a bit more of a sunset blend. I've just dipped my paintbrush in some water, and I just wanted to get some more pink but a bit brighter because it's just mixed with that purple there. You might find sometimes when the lines are really thin, it's worth just going slow but in one stroke. See what feels comfortable to you. I'm just going to speed this up a little bit now and do some more letters. However, when we get to this bit here, I'll have a little chat about how we can blend all of these different flourishes that are happening. Okay, so now we've got to this point here where we've got quite a few different overlaps, and this stroke here has actually already dried, so we need to do a little bit of mixing water just to bring it to life a bit, and we can make sure it blends really nice and evenly. So I'm just dipping my paintbrush in the water, and then we're going to go for the yellow for this because I know it mixes nicely with the pink. And firstly, I'm just going to get that yellow colour around the pink, but I'm not actually touching the pink quite yet. Okay, so now I'm going to go in and I'm just going to dip my paintbrush in the water. And I'm not dipping it right in, I'm just dipping the tip in, and then I'm just going to go lightly where the pink is. And that water just reactivates the pink and just means it blends a little bit nicer with that yellow. So now I'm just going to go in with the yellow just to add a little bit more pigment. And we don't want it to blend in the same way that these colours blend here, so I don't want to pull the yellow through the pink stroke at all. We want to make it look like it's looping around, but they're kind of dancing with each other. Okay, now I'm going to go back in with the pink and we're just going to pull it through here as well. Okay, so we've done the calligraphy and I absolutely love how this turned out. It's so bright and colourful. You'll notice that I have done the blending randomly throughout all the letters, but if you want, you could just change the colour each time you do a new letter. So that creates a different style, but it depends how much colour you want going on. It also depends how many different colours you are blending with too. I personally like this random style of blending, and I'm also not using the colours in the same order every time. So I'm not always going yellow, pink, blue, purple. I'm mixing it up just to give a little bit of depth. Okay, so now it's time to have a little bit of fun. What we're going to do is add some paint splatters to this artwork. So before I do that, I'm going to get a scrap piece of paper so I don't make a mess everywhere. For this, I'm actually going to use a slightly bigger paintbrush. So this is a paintbrush from Creative Peak. It's a medium round brush, and as you can see, it's got quite a big bristly end, and this is going to be perfect for having some fun flicking watercolour paint all over. I absolutely love using these Royal Talens Ecoline liquid watercolours for this because it just makes it so much easier to flick the paint all over because it's just already liquid. So firstly, what I'm going to do is dip my brush in the water, and then I'm going to start with the lighter colour, I think. So I'm going to start with yellow, and firstly, what I'm going to do is just position my hand over the paper. It's not touching the paper, and I'm just going to hit my paintbrush on it, and you can see it's just adding some splats. Now it is quite messy. This has already shot past my scrap paper, so I suggest you put down a lot of scrap paper if you're precious about your table. Luckily, because these are water-based, they are quite easy to wipe up if you wipe up straight away. So I've just twisted the paper there to get a slightly different angle. I'm happy with how much yellow is on there, so I'm just dipping my brush in the water. And let's go for some of this blue, and we're just going to do the same thing. Another method is you could flick the paintbrush, but I always find this is a bit too concentrated in one direction, and obviously it gets super messy on your fingers, which I don't mind too much. I just feel this method gives me a little bit more control over where it's going. Okay, so now let's do the final two colours. And there you go, a super easy, beautiful watercolour calligraphy that is super bright and colourful. If you're struggling with knowing how colours mix together, I really recommend you create a little swatch palette like this. So what I've done is put red, pink, purple, blue, green, yellow, orange down this side, and then the same this way. So then if I go along and I want to see what purple looks like mixed with green, I can go to green and then purple, and I can see it's this square. And personally, I'm not a massive fan of how that looks, but I do love how the green mixes with the blue. I've used the Talens Ecoline liquid watercolours for this, but you could do this with any watercolours as long as you have these base colours. As well as leaving this printable design in the description, I will also leave this for you so you can download it and fill it in yourself. Another thing that I love about these Ecoline liquid watercolours is, firstly, look at the little amount of paint that I've used today. I've hardly touched all the paint that I put into this palette. And an amazing thing with these inks is they have a little pipette. So that's how I got them out of the jar. But what you can do is you can squeeze all of the ink out, keep that top bit squeezed, pop it into the ink, and then let go of the top pipette bit. And you can see it sucked up all of that paint. And then I can just put it back inside. This means that I'm not wasting any paint at all, and I can use it for next time. That's why I always dip my brush in water before going in with a new colour with my brush. So I'm not mixing up these colours at all, so I can reuse them. If I wanted to mix multiple colours, then I'd do that in a separate palette. I will leave links in the description below for everything that I've used in this tutorial, so if you want to get your hands on them, then head down there to check them out. And I'll also leave a downloadable link for this template file so you can download it and create your own watercolour calligraphy piece. I would absolutely love to see if you create this piece, so be sure to head over to Instagram, share on there, and give me a tag. It'd be really cool to see what colours you pick and how you go about blending your letters. If you found this video helpful, then please give it a massive thumbs up because that really helps. And if you want to see more tutorial videos like this from me, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. I will see you soon for another video. Bye!